The recent movie Crazy People poked fun at the advertising business with this satirical view of truth in advertising.
Volvo, boxy, but good.
Let's not lie, Steve. Let's level with America.
We can't level, you idiot. We're in advertising.
Some say the point hit home.
Do you find there's been an increase in the amount of fraudulent or misleading advertising that's being placed?
5 years ago, our office received 4,000 complaints about advertising. This past year, we received over 60,000 complaints.
Missouri State Attorney General William Webster.
Consumers are trusting. We do want to believe that the claims are made, especially by very prominent companies in some cases, are legitimate, but it just doesn't always work out that way.
In fact, recent investigations by Webster and other state attorneys general found that Sara Lee Light Cheesecake had more calories than the regular version, and that Campbell's soup claimed to be high in calcium, but the only calcium came from milk you added.
The bottom line is the substance doesn't always match the claim.
Some of today's most controversial advertising claims capitalize on consumers' desire to use products good for the environment.
I have a confession to make about my baby. I felt sort of guilty when I threw away her disposable diapers.
This Los Angeles production crew is shooting a commercial for Bunnies disposable diapers, which claim to be biodegradable.
Okay, put those bunnies in.
One way, guys.
And cut.
Bob Chickering is president of the Bunnies Diaper Company.
We have a book of research, 180 pages thick, that we submit to answer those claims, so we feel good about our product.
Our concerns at this part are that the claims, the studies which support the claims, are very preliminary.
Nevertheless, the ads began running on national TV last April.
Even their bags are biodegradable. Biodegradable bunnies.
So who's minding the store? Most Americans believe, perhaps naively, that the government won't let advertisers make false or misleading claims. But even the head of the Federal Trade Commission, charged with watching over advertising, acknowledges her agency can't do much until after an ad has run. Janet Steiger was appointed to head the FTC last year.
What is the average period of time from when an ad first appears on television to that point in time at which the FTC might step in and say, we need to investigate this claim you've made?
It may even be after the ad has finished its round of being shown. However, this does not mean that the relief is not important. First of all, it sends a signal to industry as to what the standard should be. We can get consumer redress in cases, and we can get civil penalty.
In fact, the FTC relies on television networks to use their own standards to screen ads before they air.
Don't ever try this.
This Reebok ad, for instance, was rejected by NBC on the grounds that kids might imitate the dangerous stunts. But the task is enormous. 7 people at NBC review 45,000 scripts and storyboards each year.
Short of that, there are self-regulation bodies. The ad agencies, the national advertising groups are very proud of their self-regulation process, but frankly, we have seen it to be a very impotent process indeed.
So if we're trusting them to police themselves, perhaps the trust is misplaced?
It certainly has been in the last few years, yes. Consumers cannot expect regulators to protect them from every false claim. They've got to protect themselves and use some common sense.
And now, here's the host of Amazing Discoveries, Mike Levey.
Sometimes you don't even know you're watching an ad. That makes it pretty hard to use your common sense. This is an advertisement disguised as a TV talk show, paid for by a company selling car cleaner. The trade calls these shows infomercials.
Remember, you use it neat from the bottle, once a year. That gives you 12 months protection.
This one runs on over 300 TV stations and claims it made over $100 million in sales last year. And there are other commercials you don't know you're getting in movies. The Reeces Pieces in E.T.
All I want is a Pepsi.
The Pepsi in Back to the Future.
I have a Coke.
Coke?
Lemon Coke.
The Coke in Murphy's Romance.
Let's go to Mumm's.
The Mumm champagne in Moonstruck were all paid product plugs. The advertiser pays according to the product's role. The price goes up if the star uses it. Lark cigarettes paid $350,000 for this scene. Advertisers say it pays off. Rayban sales jumped $40 million after Tom Cruise wore them in Top Gun.
Does it compromise the art of filmmaking?
It does to a certain extent, but, you know, let's face it, you know, Twins, Back to the Future, there is a certain amount of commerce at work here, you know, beyond just let's make a good movie.
21.
Even television newscasts aren't immune. San Francisco TV viewers didn't know it, but when they saw this report, they were watching an unedited video news release paid for by the National Potato Board. It was produced by former television news reporter Nancy Herr, who now heads her own video news release production company.
And it tells me that I'm still a good reporter, that I'm a good writer, that I've done a good job. Because the pieces that do get used in their entirety, I defy you to find who the sponsor was, you know, who paid for it.
And any news operation that uses one of those things is simply giving free time to the advertisers.
Mark Miller directs media studies at Johns Hopkins University.
What advertising has done is to seep out beyond its proper space and to kind of take over the culture as the advertisers look for more and more ways to get at and to people. Well, the question is, what are the effects of this kind of supersaturation on people? I think that it's a complicated effect, and I think that it's basically a disastrous effect.
It's as much of an influence on who we are as family dynamics, because it's around us all the time. There's really no escaping the images that say, be this, buy this, you'll be happier, or you won't feel guilty.
Psychologist Carol Moke sees the impact in her practice.
As I would hear from my patients on a consistent basis how they felt somehow they weren't measuring up. And it becomes part of our language about ourselves. It's kind of a product language, like driving a Jaguar says something about a person that driving a Toyota does not. It becomes internalized as much as a surname.
Computers.
Agency executive Bill Dusenberry.
And if advertising has contributed to what we call conspicuous consumption, I would have to say that's largely true. But it's helped the economy, it's helped people in their individual lives, it's helped people understand that there's a lot more than just the very basics of life and living. And I don't think that's so terrible.
What people can do beyond simply realizing what advertising is to begin to watch the images with a fixed critical gaze, to realize that those images have been put together so carefully, and to begin to read them aggressively, to see what it is they're selling.
We'll be back with some final thoughts in just a moment. There are growing signs of a consumer revolt against the barrage of advertising that surrounds us. Some states are debating laws that would ban advertising from the classroom. Community activists are painting over billboards, and more than 36 bills are now pending in Congress that would place new restrictions on advertisers. But advertising is here to stay. It's part of our culture, it drives our economy, and it's up to us as parents and consumers to make the buying decisions that make sense for us and our families, and to watch out for the new and sophisticated ways that advertising is trying to sell us. I'm Deborah Norville. For all of us at NBC News, thank you and good night. I'm Deborah Norville. Tomorrow morning on Today, we'll look into something new, men who have eating disorders.
I'm Joe Garagiola. We'll have Brian Brown telling us of his new movie and a ranching tradition facing extinction.
That's all tomorrow morning on Today.
And Sunday night, you'll see another NBC blockbuster summer movie. He's a maverick with scruples, a cop-turned private eye, a rough-and-tumble kind of guy who operates out of a diner. He's a